Hi, I'm Leanne Ely. I'm a nutritionist, a New York Times best-selling author, and some people even say I'm a life coach. I started the Daily Dish Show to share my story, my truth, and my journey to vibrancy, and to inspire others to do the same. Because it's all about grit, perseverance, and finding a way despite the odds. It's about embracing the whole woman, not just the parts that are easy to love, and feeding her heart, mind, body, and soul. But I found that this isn't just my story, it's your story too. It's go time. This is the Daily Dish. But today we're going to be talking about the fear of failure because it is something that plagues, I don't care who you are, everyone. Some more than others, obviously. But when fear of failure takes up residence in your life and it becomes a part and parcel of what you do, it can stop you from everything. It can stop you from getting started. It can get in your way. You can just say, nah, what if I fail? And I don't know if you've ever seen that little meme. It's like, well, what if I fail? And then it's like, well, what if you don't? The little meme or whatever. What if I fall? Said the butterfly or whatever. What if you fly? I think is something along those lines with the meme. Hi, Eileen. I don't know how that little meme went, but I do know and I do get the understanding because one of the things that we can do is catastrophize over a lot of things. That's what fear of failure oftentimes does, is just sit there and think of, what if, bad thing, bad thing, bad thing, instead of saying, what if I succeed? What if it gets better this time? What if, and thinking of all the possibilities instead of focusing on the negativity. This is why it's so important what you focus on, because like Robin Sharma says, that expands, and what you dwell upon does become your destiny. We know that. That is a lesson that you can take to the bank, and you know it. You've experienced it. Isn't that right? Hi, Alicia. Good. I'm glad you're here. So we don't want it taking up residence because this is frustrating. And, oftentimes it's the root cause of procrastination, for heaven's sakes. You never get off the dime because I'm scared to fail. I'm scared to fail. And the self-doubt of all of this can be just paralytic, and keep you from doing anything, keep you on the couch, keep you stuck in social media, keep you stuck on games, keep you stuck into a place that you don't want to be, but it's safe. And you understand what those parameters are, and you understand all of that. And it just, any worthwhile goal, though, gets dashed to the side. Anything that you really want becomes less of a thing. And, all of this stuff, doing all these things, like, endlessly scrolling on Facebook or other social media, playing games, binging on Netflix, boozing it up, whatever. Those are all addictive behaviors. And it's to numb ourselves out, not have to face this stuff. So what we talked about yesterday was this whole thing of when we were talking about fear and what have you. Fears have to be faced. They have to be confronted. And when you have a fear of confrontation, boy, oh boy, double whammy, right? But this is what the whole thing is. We have to acknowledge this fear, because when we do, we give it less strength. We give it less strength. Okay, there you are. It's sort of like taking a mask off of something. It's the Wizard of Oz that we talked about yesterday. Ignore that man behind the curtain. It doesn't quite look so scary when the mask comes off. And that's part of the whole thing. That's part of the way that we are able to let this fear start to get a little bit smaller and let our courage get a little bit easier. So here's, one of the things too is that we got to look at this. And while this isn't true for everyone, but for a lot of people, where does this fear come from? Hypercritical parents. We had parents that were just taking everything away. I had, my parents said, if you did this, I remember one time my mom said, if you ever came home pregnant, we had a girl in school who came home pregnant, we will disown you. Fear. Really? Would you really disown me? Would you? Well, that was kind of the whole thing. It's just, this kind of ultimatum, like, if you do this, then I will not. I had a friend who was gay, and when he came out to his parents, they disowned him 100%. And, I just remember the absolute crush, how crushed he was. You know, the only thing that was different about him was they just didn't approve of his sexuality. He was still him. He was still their darling son that they loved, but because they didn't, they just pushed him away. And that kind of hypercritical stuff locks a lot of us in to this whole, you know, fear-based rule association with living. Everything is you better or else. Everything is just really black and white, and there's no gray in our lives. And how sad is that? Because, you know, this causes us to have an extreme need to ask permission from ourselves just to be ourselves. And it brings us to the place of, you know, one of the fears that we saw there was disappointing others, which I keep looking at and saying, are we playing for an audience? Is this what we're doing? Because that's what it is when we're looking to get the acceptance of others or worried about the judgment of others. It's like we have our own personal stage that we're playing for others, right? Does that work? Does that ever work? Of course not. There's Jen. Faye, I did it. Faye Genevieve Marin. That's Jen, by the way, right? I did it, right, Jen? Tell me I did. I hope I got your name right this time. I said I wouldn't forget, and then I saw it and went, James in the house. And this is, Rosemary's here too. This is what I want everybody to understand is that the beauty of who you are gets beaten down early on in life, that we live in a permission-based type of a place. Like, you know, how should I dance for you? How do I do this so that, you know, I could even be accepted? And if that's how we are looking at that, then no wonder we have this gigantic, you know, fear of failure. So perfectionism is also a part of the fear of failure. Well, we all know that, right? We know that because, and it comes and riddles itself into our lives. And if we can't do it right, then what's the point of doing it at all? You know, and whose definition of right is it anyway? Whose definition of doing it right is it? You know, it could be parents, it could be a boss, it could be yourself of this notion as you're playing for this, you know, imaginary audience. Do you see how this gets so convoluted? That's what fear of failure does when we give it credence. And that's what we do. We give it permission to walk into our lives and to sort of take over our goals. Well, I can't do that because of fear of failure. There you go. That's an easy permission slip to get out of doing the thing that we really want to do. And when that happens, that's when we start to lose our sense of self. We start to lose any kind of a gumption that we want to do anything. And all those things that we would love to be strong and brave and willing to take a risk and going forward and owning our own lives and taking responsibility for it all goes by the wayside because, you know, if it's not done perfect, there you go. It just starts out like that. And so we play it safe, you know. We over-identify with failure and say, well, you know, I've always failed at X, Y, and Z. I've heard that one a lot, you know, over-identifying with this. Because let me just say this. We've all of us have always failed at something. We always will fail because we're human beings. And part of the whole equation is failing, getting up and going. Now, what if your toddler said, well, you know what? Hey, mom, I tried to walk, but you know what? That was hard because I just walked across the room, fell down 3 times. I'm just done. You're just going to have to carry me all the time, right? You can see how ridiculous this is, but this is how ridiculous we are with ourselves. And we don't think we're being ridiculous. We think we're being protective. And it's part of our old shell that we put around ourselves to protect us, to keep us away from this. But really, how do we overcome this fear of failure? And how bad really is failure anyway? How bad is it? Steve Jobs, they used to say in Apple, like, fail quickly and fail fast. Fail fast and something. But the whole point is, it's like, go ahead and get the failure out of the road. That's how you do. You have those Edison moments we talked about before, right? You know about the Edison moments. How many times can you figure out how not to do something? And that gets us one step closer to how to do it. You know, I have, and again, this is not an excuse, but I just kind of want to use this as a picture. my whole schedule, because now that we have a puppy, has simply changed. And the time that I have and the time that I don't have has shifted. And so I am constantly looking at my schedule and trying to figure out how to dial it in, because I have a miss here and a miss there. I don't want to be missing. So can I squeeze this in here and squeeze in this in there? And instead of just, demanding of myself these entire blocks of time, I'm fitting things in as I go. And that seems to be working better. But I'm telling you, it's taken me a while. And we've had this dog since March. And it's taken me a while, and it's been disruptive. But does that mean I quit? Does that mean I say, well, I'm not an athlete then? No, it means that I am an athlete trying to get my training down better and more consistent the way it was before we had a dog. How do you do that? Keep going back to the drawing table. Keep looking at things. Keep self-correcting. And that's one of the things that we have here. Look, path corrections. This is what it is for today. You know why I have this in here? Because as you think of, well, let's try this, you can start to see the pattern of how you make things better. That's how you go to the place of grit and not quit. Failure is just a part of the equation. That's all. So how do we overcome this? Well, number one is we got to figure out where it came from. A little bit. Not sit there and navel gaze and say, well, my parents and this, that, and the other thing. Because, I have been through a lot of therapy in my younger days. And let me just say that a lot of it was riddled with, well, what did your dad do? What did your mother do? How did you feel about that? And that is just endless navel gazing. And I was just like, I don't know. I was 4. I don't know. I was 3. I was just trying to figure things out as I went, and a lot of that can have, it can be enlightening. That's when I figured out I had abandonment issues and all of that. But we have to try to understand the effect, how all of this stuff affects us. That's all. We have to affect it. Now, how would it with your child? What would you say to your child who was going through this whole fear of failure? What would you say to him? You have an 8-year-old, say, and he didn't do well on his skateboard and he just wants to throw the whole thing out and get rid of it. What would you say to him? You would be kind. You would be tender. You would be supportive and encouraging. Tell him to get out there and do it again. Get out there and do it again. Yeah, you can hang out with the big kids. Yes, you have the ability to do it. You know what? Just because you fell off once or twice or 50 times doesn't mean that's the whole end of it. You've got this. What if you did that to yourself? See, because the part of the fear of failure is just how much we beat ourselves up because of it. If we were tender and gentle to ourselves, the same way that we would be with a child, wouldn't it be a little bit more different, a lot more different, wouldn't it? Wouldn't we give a whole lot of grace to ourselves instead of just this constant beat ourselves down and constantly pushing ourselves into the garbage heap that we're just not worth anything because we can't get it right the first time out of the chute or even the 10th time? I wrote, I had women write me this amazing email. I remember, it was probably 5 or 6 years ago. And she said, when you said to me in your email, this was in my email, give it one more shot. Don't figure that it's just not for you, but give it another shot, give it another try. And she wrote me this email saying, it was that encouragement that made me try this time. And then she went on and she told that she lost 30 pounds and she did all this and she didn't believe she could do it. But that one line resonated with her. Well, how about that for you? Do you have something that just resonates inside of you that says, what about this? That little glimmer? Because that's what it is. That's what it is. And you know how we find that glimmer? You know how we find that little inner lovely that needs that kind of nurture? By journaling. We find it by meditating. We find it by confiding with a friend or even a therapist if we need to. But we get to the bottom of the barrel on this whole thing and say, okay, so it was this. Now, once we're there, we don't stay there. Of course, we rise up. We rise up. So this is what we need to do. These are the practices we need to, so that we can move forward, so that we can say, aha, that's what it is. But, just like a cha-cha, you do 2 steps forward and 2 steps back. We cha-cha our way through this. It is a dance, girlfriends. It is a dance. And learn to love the dance. When we learn to love the dance, this is what I talk about. This is our journeys, right? Here, you want to go there, got to build a bridge. And I'll tell you that bridge building, that's all the journey. And there's a dance on that bridge if you choose to have one. Because we always look at what we want and not even think for a minute that the process of getting there has any value. And the process of getting there is everything, including this fear of failure, including that. Because when we get past that, we just see it as part of the journey. We don't see it as this is going to hold me back forever and ever. It's just part of what we do. Okay, next. Be like the guy at the DMV. Number 75, next. Be like that. You can do it. You can do it if that's how you choose, if that's the way that you choose to think about it. So the other thing is too, is if one of the things I've done this, by the way, this is just super helpful. And how we do in our Take Back Your Life journals, one of the things that's in there, and this is the change that we're looking to create, and the goals that we create are only 3 goals, believe it or not, for the next 12 weeks. And it drills down everything. And one of the things that I put in mine anyway is I am, well, not this time, but I have before. I'm a fast learner and I improve as I learn. Because you know what? That gets you off the pity pot, if you will, of saying, well, I just can't because I am a failure, because I'm scared of failing, I'm scared of succeeding, I'm scared of fill in the blank. We use those as excuses instead of launch pads. And that's what I'm saying. If we can frame it with, I'm a fast learner and I improve as I learn and I improve as I fail. Because that failure is a teaching moment. Look for the lesson and step away from the rest of it. That's the experience file right there. Step away from the rest of it. Nobody needs to see you beat yourself up. We've seen enough of that, right? This is how you become a victim to yourself and everybody around you. We don't need that. We just need to step away from it and reframe it into, okay, Edison moment, I'm a fast learner and I improve as I learn and as I fail. Big deal. Big deal. Next. Number 3 is positive thoughts. Listen, you remember we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, I guess it was, but for every negative thought that you have, you need like 30 positive thoughts to overcome it. And I know it sounds exhausting. And sometimes it can be. This is why we use the setting up a positive environment, the quote deck, the quote of the week. This is why we use different tools like this to keep reminding us of our core value and our core value and God's core value of who you are as well and how he sees you, and understanding that at the bottom line, at the very end of every single day, who you are is important because you're here on purpose and for purpose, created just at this time for just that reason, to find your purpose and to help others. It will show up in what you do, but not if you quit. And I know that even if it's something like, quitting an exercise thing or whatever it is that you might say, well, I can't because I failed, blah, blah, blah. When we get over fear of failure and just decide it's just another process in the learning process, it's just one more step, and we just let that go and not give it so much credence, then that's when we start to move forward and we start to build, our journey. As we build that journey and we build ourselves up and we become stronger, who knows? Our purpose just might, boom, pop up right in front of our eyes. That's how this helps. That's how this helps us to grow and to become and to do and to go forward anyway. We have no choice. Going forward anyway is such a big deal. Going forward anyway is you saying to yourself, I'm so worth it. And it's an underscore of what God says about you. He says that you're the apple of his eye, the daughter of a king. You're not to be under the table eating scraps. You're to be seated at the right hand of the Father. How about that? Let's do that. How about we do that instead? There's no failure in that. There's just glory in that, because that's how he sees you. How could you see yourself as anything less? So the number 4 and 5 are real simple. See your best end outcome. Visualize what the best outcome could be. What could be the best outcome? That you just do it from here to there. It's from A to B. There's no A to Z. It's just A to B. Wouldn't that be just excellent? Wouldn't that be perfect? Well, it's not perfect. It's excellent. So it's probably going to be more like from A to G to M to maybe even Z. But if you believe that you're here on purpose and for purpose, you show up and you say to heck with, fear of failure. That's itsy bitsy. I see it. I acknowledged it. Maybe it came from, terrible parents. Maybe it came from getting beat up at school. I don't know. But whatever. Next, just like at the DMV. Next, Sarah's the avocado of God's eye. I know that's right. I know that's right. Debbie says, trying to drag myself out of this tough place. Divorce is hard. Yes. Okay, she's going to start her photography business. Are you ready for Debbie's photography business? I am. I'm ready for your photography business, Debbie. We are all ready for it. We are all ready for it. All right. I love this. Did you see what Leisha said? Next, do that. What does this do? This gets our attention and it starts to change our mind. Kitchen's closed. Next. Lastly, when you ask yourself, but what if this doesn't work out? I want you to be just like that darn meme I was telling you about early. What if it does? What do you have to lose, really? Really? That you're going to step to the next level and you're going to say, hey, that's too hard. I can't do it. I mean, is that it? Or are you going to step to the next level and say, you know what, that risk was worth it? You get a hit of dopamine as a reward, by the way. That's your body saying, you got this. And then you get to step into the next thing. This is how you build that bridge. This is how you create your journey. This is how you get from here to there. And enjoy the process, by the way. Fear of failure is only as big as we allow it to be. Think of it as a garden right now. Are you going to go water that? Or are you going to water instead your really positive what ifs? What if I did this? What if I did it anyway? What if I overcame this? What if I triumphed? What if I was victorious? What if I showed everybody my beautiful pictures, Debbie? What if I had this business of doing all this handwork, beautiful handwork? Patsy, what about all of that? That's what I'm talking about. Step into the life you want to lead, right? Remember, you create more of the thing that you focus on. Do you get that? You write that down twice if you're taking notes. You get more of the thing that you're focusing on. So focus on the right thing, for heaven's sakes. Fear of failure is not it. Fear of failure's had its light shined on it. Put it down, let it go, and just do it anyway. I double dog dare you. Double dog dare you. You ready for this? Who's ready to step into the next thing? Who is? Peace be with you. Oh, 3. Peace be with you. I certainly appreciate you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining me today. You can find me on TikTok for daily tips to help support your most vibrant life. And remember, you are the author of your own story. Until next time.